Today's guest is Senior Vice President and founding partner of BBW International Event Staffing. She's an industry staffing expert, networking guru, lifelong learner, and has reinvented herself and her company at several different points during the pandemic. Personally, I pride myself on bringing a little humor to the party, but I know whenever I'm at an event with her, I am at best the second funniest person in the room. Please welcome to the Illuminate Project, Miss Sheila Wong. Sheila, I didn't realize you were originally from Calgary, right?
Yeah.
And so
I grew up here.
What does that city mean to you? We'll give Calgary a little plug.
Okay. Well, for me, Calgary is home. This is where we landed when we emigrated to Canada.
Yeah.
So people say Calgary. Most people land in Toronto, and Vancouver.
Yeah.
How did you end up in Calgary? Well, my father had a cousin who was one of our sponsors, and he was a pastor here in Calgary. And so we ended up here in September. And speaking of which, we landed on September 3rd, and it was snowing. and
as what are we doing?
No, as we were so excited because it's our first snowfall. I'm from Hong Kong. So it's our first snowfall. Wow. And of course, what do kids do? They run outside, they stick their tongues out, right? And it was so exciting. And then we went, it's cold. And we ran back into the airport terminal.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love Calgary's home. When I come back here, even though Calgary has grown, I still sort of move in the same circle I did as a kid and, revisit the places. And of course, things have changed, but I have a lot of friends here. So it was really nice to be able to see some of the people we grew up with. Toronto is home to me now, but I don't say I'm going back home to visit. I'll just say I'm going home to visit my family. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
sure
and Calgary,
you went to Hong Kong, you'd be like,
and the people are genuinely very friendly here. And I've become such a Torontonian. The other day, I was walking down the street or at the store. This woman was so friendly and we go, oh, she clearly likes her job. We were making fun of her, but she was being genuinely Calgarian. But as a Torontonian, we're going, she's a little too friendly.
Let's hear about one of our sponsors.
Hey, have you guys heard about what's going on in the Wild West? I was chatting with my friends over at Tourism Calgary the other day, and wow, they're actually investing over $1 billion into their events and hospitality industry.
Right, that's true. By 2024, I heard they'll have the biggest convention center in Western Canada with the expansion of their BMO center with another 500,000 square feet of space.
Calgary Stampeders could probably play there. Calgary is the fourth biggest Canadian city and a major destination for meetings and events. This is going to totally transform the city's ability to host big ticket events and accommodate large conventions.
But the convention center is only one part of the revitalized culture and entertainment district, which also includes another event center and the Stampede Trail Festival Street.
Oh, and don't forget the upgrades to the Stephen Avenue pedestrian walkway. So seize the date. Space is filling up fast.
Yeah, don't horse around. Contact Tourism Calgary at visitcalgary.com and be part of the energy.
And now back to the episode.
Speaking of liking your job and BBW, I know you are one of our more interesting case uses because I know you have ducked and weaved and pivoted and swerved all through this pandemic.
It's been so cool to watch, to be honest, just to see that it just feels like you guys are always ahead of the curve. And you've just been so adaptable.
Yeah. Well, just before we were on, I said to Mary France, I said, when the pandemic hit, and everyone was still kind of taking stock in what was going on, and thinking you were already making decisions and moving. And I wanted to know, how important was it to you to make quick decisions and jump quickly?
Tim, you make it sound like I was really strategic, and really I was reacting. It's a knee-jerk reaction to, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Right.
And I think that being an entrepreneur is one of the things that I excelled in is being able to quickly think and I guess in the past we've been pivoting, but we didn't call it that, right? We call it business strategy. And but that's so old school.
It's all about how you name it, right?
But we've always been small and nimble. Yeah. And we've had to do this several times in our businesses lifetime. So we've been in business 30 years. And I would say that from the beginning, we started off in a recession, the world's worst recession since the Depression. So that was in the early 90s. You remember when IBM laid off for the first time in their history. It was when we started our company. So do you think it was a good time to start? Well, probably. People say that it gives you time to figure it out.
Yeah.
So we changed from being a headhunting recruiting company for the insurance and the health insurance and insurance industries and advertising companies, because they were all starting to lay people off, emerging as well, to we need to find something else to specialize in. And we needed to work in some capacity. So then at that point, we had changed to becoming a temporary agency working in the event sector. But that came about because we had to force ourselves because the industry or the economy was not improving.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Did that experience help you with this experience?
Absolutely, because we had to think about, well, what did we do before to survive? Well, we've got to think of something to survive. So the biggest piece of when something like this happens and you all of a sudden have the rug pulled out from under you, the biggest thing to think about is, where are the holes in the market? Where are the needs?
Yes.
Where do people have a need to use your service? Because you haven't lost your assets. So in our case, our assets were our staff.
Yeah.
And the training that we've done and the relationships that we built. And so we had to think about how to use our assets, but in a different way. And calling my staff assets is a really cold thing to say, but that's, in business terms, that's what you would think about. These are our resources. And so we thought about how we were going to do that. And I talked to people. I didn't do it on my own. I had conversations with people outside our industry, people within our industry. And as the conversations progressed, the ideas started to form. But, I had mentioned before at the beginning, I had put my head in the sand. I was in bed for 2 weeks. I think we were all in shock.
Well, events never ended. Like, we've never been in a situation where events did not go on, right? So I think we were all in a massive shock. Like, it was quite, man, it's hard to think back to that, because now we're just kind of just living it, but it was crazy that like this could even happen.
Yeah. I mean, Tim, you're old enough to remember. You're my contemporary.
29.
But in the year SARS hit and Toronto was the epicenter, we thought the world was going to end. But fortunately for BBW at that time, we were operating in 9 cities across Canada, and our other cities were still holding events, whereas Toronto wasn't. Yeah. And so that's how we survived. And we felt this was very different because it was affecting us right across the country.
Well, and you say that I would remember, I don't remember SARS to a heavy degree because I was one of those destinations outside of Toronto that we actually came out better because everything canceled in Toronto and was booking elsewhere.
Yeah.
So SARS is not on, I don't know, when people mention SARS, it's not on a scale.
It was definitely contained very quickly compared to this one.
Yeah,
for sure.
So we had a big joke. One of our clients with the home show, which runs in March, the National Home Show. We gave we said we would give the show manager a T-shirt that said, "I survived the 3 S's." So SARS, a snowstorm on opening day, and Saddam Hussein, because that was when the war started.
Wow.
Anyway, yes. So we also thought about that situation, but we knew that this was very different. And I know that our hotel friends were saying the same thing. Oh yeah, we've been through this before when we had SARS, but this was very different. And nobody had a crystal ball to say it was going to last this long.
No, for sure. But
except my business. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Except for your business partner.
I said nobody had a crystal ball except my business partner.
Listen,
because he said, Sheila, this isn't going to end anytime soon.
Yeah,
he was right.
Well, that's why, I have my business partners, Tim and Ryan's not here, but it's better 2 heads, 3 heads are better than one. That's for sure. Because sometimes, it's hard to see past the trees, right?
Mhm.
So let's switch some gears a little bit. We want to get you into our infamous Crazy Eights. So number
Quick,
one.
Sheila, quick.
It's early here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good lead in.
So what time do you typically get up?
6 a.m.
Nice. Plans or no plans?
I do have a small P for plans because the day always changes. So
Okay.
I always allow for some flexibility in how I schedule things.
Fair. Small P. Okay. Live to eat or eat to live?
Live to eat for sure.
Personal trainer or personal chef?
Personal chef.
What sense do you rely on the most?
Probably my nose.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Truth or dare?
Dare.
Nice. I love it. And trapped on a deserted island, piano or violin?
Violin. You know why?
Yeah, I want to know.
Why?
Because nobody else can hear me.
Are you better on because you play them both, right?
I play the piano much better.
Okay.
And you have to have a piano tuner and you can tune your own violin, right? So it's self-sufficient.
It'd be
Oh,
tough to get a
see?
piano on a deserted island anyway.
Well, that
Violin's
too,
much
yeah.
easier.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like your logic. I think it's very practical of you. So, and lastly, are you surviving or thriving in the status quo?
I would say we're thriving and gratefully so.
I couldn't
Awesome.
agree more.
Yeah.
Honestly, honestly, I just want to kind of circle back to and want to talk a little more about all the things that BBW has been doing because it is really impressive. I do think, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment, it is pretty strategic. You know, we were talking to last season, we spoke with Paul Wilkins, who talks about like change and things like that. And he was saying that, 99% of the people out there will continue doing the same thing.
Mhm.
And actually that's the majority, but people who have that nimbleness, like you were saying, and are willing to kind of just, well, this is what we do, but now this is what we do. Right. And being able to kind of make those changes and transform.
There's so much truth in that.
Yeah. It's pretty remarkable because I think a lot of people just kept hitting that wall thinking like, oh, I'm just going to wait until the wall like evaporates.
Or they stayed on the couch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just am in the process of doing a recruiting project for a client. And the candidates that I shortlisted were the candidates, even though they're not working, they're still doing something.
Yeah.
And the candidates that came on and talked about how, I can't wait to get back. I'm really excited about this job. And so, I've been just taking it easy and enjoying as much as I can. And then they have no clue the whole world passed by them.
Yeah.
Right.
In that 18-month period. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. And like when I made the jump to virtual, I had a little bit of a gap there and I really understood how out of the conversation I was when I started working again. Mm-hmm. And my mind immediately went to all the properties and facilities that are closed down and thinking the world is progressing still. It's keeping going. How much catch up there's going to be to do when things get open. Yeah.
And I've been talking to meeting planners who are trying to get back in the game. And even though they got their DES or their VMP, what was it, VMM?
Yeah. I got mine.
Your certificate, your courses that you took and you've got under your belt, there's no practical experience. Right. And so how do you get that practical experience? Is the big question. And people aren't going to hire you now because everybody else that has been working in digital world is not hiring until you have some practical experience.
Yep. It's challenging, right? Because technology is, it can be very intimidating for a lot of people. And that's something that I totally recognize. Like you can take the course and everything like that, but there's such another layer of lingo and Tim learned it in where he was, but it's just like it's just a whole different world and some people are just not as comfortable with it. I've noticed with my team, for example, like some people are really more comfortable in the logistics side and they really because when you go into virtual, you tend to go more in the communication side, like marketing communication. You have to, because that's just the tools you have at hand, right? And if you're not into that, I mean, it's tough. It's a totally different kind of event planning.
You can't fight it. It's not that you're not into it. This is the way the world is moving, and you're going to be bulldozed over by technology if you don't embrace it.
Yeah,
and it reminds me of the early 90s when laptops first came out. Do you guys remember when laptops first came out?
Well, and the internet came about, like, oh
right. That was 97 was the internet.
And such a fad.
Yeah, well, part of our pivot early on was I was training executives in insurance companies how to use their laptops because they were resisting it. And it was it's the same analogy I use. I had to teach them where the space bar was, because in those days, these executives had secretaries who did all their typing for them. So most of them didn't even know the keyboard or know how to type.
Oh no, it's the one finger going, right? Like it's
tuck, tuck, tuck. Yeah. And the ones who didn't embrace it were out the door very quickly. They didn't understand the technology, and it's the same thing that's happening now. And we have in our lifetime different waves where things change, and things change drastically.
Yeah.
And embracing it is the key. So get off the couch. Don't hit the wall anymore.
That's going to be the title of this episode.
Get off the couch.
Get off the couch.
So you alluded to your co-partner and your co-founder. And I thought I knew you well, Sheila, but I did all kinds of research and dug up some good little nuggets on you that I didn't know. But so you referred to him as the class, and you said if he is the class, then you are the fun in the relationship.
That came from a client.
Okay, and I know you as one of the most hilarious people in the industry. But how important is fun to you in your day-to-day operations and what you do? You know what? We need to be serious at times, but the fun gets us out of bed, gets us through the hard times. And, I describe our pivot as a roller coaster ride. And, sometimes it's really fun, but sometimes it's really scary. But if we didn't have the fun, I wouldn't have a reason to get off the couch. Right. So to say, yeah. And I found it interesting. I saw that someone had asked you along the way what you'd be doing if it wasn't BBW, and your response was you'd be running a tour company. Now, I'd like you to tell our listeners and viewers what name you have put aside for that tour company, because I thought this was hilarious. I thought that being a tour operator would be just fantastic because I get to travel. Everybody thinks about that. So long ago, I worked as a temp in a tour operator's office, and I discovered what they did for a living. And I thought, wow, this is great. So at that point, I could have my own. I would call it Wong Tours to the Right Places. Now, did you trademark that name? I actually have a website that I purchased with that name, and I don't even know if I've renewed it now, but I did go as far as buying the URL for it. Oh my God. So I won't get in trouble if I name this episode that? Long Tours to the Right Places. That would work too. Okay. Okay, great. No, I'm just taking notes here because we're getting some really good things out of this. That's amazing. I love it. I really love it. And I forgot about that. When did I talk about that? Geez, I think it was a long time ago, Sheila. It was a long time ago. Back in the days of traveling. We do our research here at the Illuminate Project. We go deep. Yikes. Deep cuts. Speaking of a long time ago, which is not that long ago, but May 2020, I dug up a quote from you, and I actually read the quote first, and then it kind of dawned on me how long we've been in this pandemic when I read when you said it. But the quote is, "I'm not letting COVID take us down after 3 decades," referring to BBW. And that was May 2020. So we're like 15, 16 months, after you said this. And do you still have that same tenacity? I do. And, I do, because there's so much hope and given to us with a couple of amazing contracts that is our safety net. Even if events don't come back online this fall, which everybody has been hoping it will, but we're seeing some cancellations already. We know that we have
the safety net in the 2 contracts that we've procured in this time. And we're very grateful for that. And we've done a good job with it. And so we give ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back, but our clients who considers us as their partners as they pivot as well has been working very closely with us. So yes, we are not going to let COVID take us down, because the plan is to rebuild. We can make you better, stronger, faster, $1 million man.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I was a little I don't want to say shook, but I thought about that for a moment when I read the date, because there's a little bit of optimism in that quote. And it was so long ago, and here we are still fighting.
Yeah.
It just, I sat and thought about that for a bit. That May 2020 seems so long ago.
But, in the grand scheme of things, May 2020 is a fraction of my existence in this industry. So it's a hiccup, albeit it's a very annoying hiccup, but it's not going to end us all. And I am, if you call me optimistic, I will take it. My business partner has a bit of pessimism, which makes for a nice blend, a nice cocktail. So to say, a little bitter, a little sweet. And so we can't think about COVID as it's going to, it's going to go back. It's never going to go back. And I think your audience is aware of that.
Yeah.
I mean, we remember when,
if they're not, I don't know if they're why they're listening.
Some of them might realize this, but remember when you were allowed to bring a bottle of water with you on the airplane, or your drinks, right? Yeah. We can't do that anymore. Remember when you didn't have to take your shoes off to go through the metal detector? We can't do that anymore. There's so much that changed after 2001. It's going to be the same with COVID. There's going to be, I may be wearing a mask for a very long time, and maybe I'll switch it to one of the face shields from our pivot, because you can see our smiling faces. Okay, that was a plug.
Go for it.
But it's not like, when cold and flu season comes up, if somebody is sick, like I'm Asian, so I can say this. We've been wearing masks for how long? And I actually know people who are, there's nothing wrong with wearing a mask and protecting other people. And so the mask was used by Asian countries when people were sick. And they were trying to think about the other person, and you put the mask on because you cared about the other person. That's what the mask represents. It's not it's not prohibiting your rights. It's not taking away what's rightly yours. It's thinking about the other person, because the mask doesn't protect you from COVID. It protects other people from you.
Absolutely. And I can't imagine not wearing it in the metro anymore, I gotta say. There's certain things I'm like, I think I'll just keep doing that. I hope everyone does, because it's better.
Well, and that element of it protects others has been known now for a year and a half. And it's just the fact that we need to keep repeating it to people is crazy.
In North America, we're a very individualistic culture over here, right? And I think this has been a wake-up call, and I'm glad that, I'm hoping that this will imprint a little more on this side, because the individualism, there's some good parts, but there's also some bad parts, as we've seen, right? And I think we could stand to learn a little bit more from other people around the world sometimes. I always think North America is like the teenager, like
yes,
in Europe are the grandparents, Asia is like the centurions, they have all the wisdom.
That's a good way to think about it. Yeah, we are a pretty young culture in North America. So that does make sense. And we still have to figure it out. But
so one final question for you. You mentioned that we're not going back, that we're heading into uncharted waters and we're doing things different. You guys pivoted from a staffing company to COVID ambassadors. Why is it important for the front lines of the hospitality industry to approach their business in a different way going forward?
I think now it's more than just customer service. The customer service extends to customer care in the true sense of the word, that we have to create an environment where the attendees of our events, the people who come to our properties and our venues are kept safe. And we have to project that confidence so that it provides people, we have to project that so that people feel confident to come to your event, to come stay at your venue, to come visit your restaurant. If I walk into a restaurant and I notice the staff are not wearing their face masks, I'm walking out.
Yeah.
Right at this point in time. But who knows what that's going to look like in the future. We know that a lot of hotels have created their cleaning programs and they've been pivoting as well and advertising that. And so I'm going to pick a hotel that has some kind of a program as opposed to somebody who isn't. So in terms of our business, we've created programs for our clients where we're not just offering them a service, we're actually providing consultation to say, hey, have you thought about this? Maybe you need to do this. And maybe some of this you don't need to take on that we can do because they can't wrap their heads around it. They've got so much other things that they have to look after. And so in that conversation, they go, oh, thank God. Like, I want to be a solution, not part of the problem.
Yeah. And that's, as you're answering, I'm just thinking, wow, that's the health of your guests is such a big responsibility for companies and properties to take on who may not have that expertise in that area. Yeah. So that is 100% where BBW comes in to help provide that expertise, which results in sales if people are comfortable coming to your property, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I can be a little bit political at this point, is that if I had my way, I would have mandated vaccination with my employees right off the bat when we started recalling them a few weeks ago. And the discussion amongst my team is that we can't because, technically you can't. And the employment lawyers are saying you can't. But other lawyers are saying, well, safety first, right? Before, privacy. And so now that the government and different levels of government are starting to mandate vaccination, it would make it much easier for the private sector like us and small business to follow suit because, the fear is we got to wait till somebody gets sued and then we have to see what case law brings.
Right.
And the fear is, a small company like ours, we can't afford to be sued. And, we want to hire people because we can't keep our other staff safe if we bring on people who aren't vaccinated. And
it's a tricky situation.
It's really, really tricky. But and what we've done is we've signed up for rapid testing program.
Oh, wow.
So that our staff are asked to participate in the rapid testing program, whether they work or not that week. They still have to test twice a week, and it's through the Creative Destruction Lab Consortium. And there's a consortium of a bunch of businesses, large and small, who are participating in the rapid testing to provide data for the government. So this is private data that's provided to the government to see how effective the rapid testing is to prevent spread of COVID. So we signed up for that because it was a way for us to keep our staff and our clients safe, and our clients are feeling good that our staff are going to be testing before they come on site.
Awesome. And I mean, with the cool expertise you're expelling, you need to be a leader in that area, right? So I think that's an awesome.
Okay, that's a title I don't want, a leader in the COVID safety area. But it is a responsibility. It is a responsibility that we all have as professionals in the industry.
Yeah.
And it's not like, you do it better than somebody else.
No.
I'm happy to share information. We have created resources and links to government sites for each province that we work in. And client says, everything changes. And I said, it does, but you know what, we've got this for you. And you can click on the links and just make sure before you share the information that the government actually updated the website
right.
and that it's saying what they're saying on the, in public. But, we're truly in partnership with our clients. No time has been more important to be a partner in the industry than it is now.
Awesome. I think that's a great sentiment to wrap up on. And thanks very much for taking some time out of your vacation at our
Hey, I'm going to McDonald's for breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for being part of the Illuminate Project podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.
To carry on the conversation, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter at IlluminateProj with an 8.
Switch your mindset, stay creative, and we challenge you to not just survive, but thrive in the status quo.